So let's create a script for the player, something that will store a health variable, which we can then modify. And it can be a representation of our player health. It's going to be a bit boring. Create a JavaScript, call it player health. Open that up. Okay, we'll create a variable to store that health value. Let's just set it off like a percentage, somewhere between 0 and 100. Okay, that's it. Well, not quite. I mean, we could just immediately tap into the health on this script. We could say NPC movement, game object find the player, get component the player health, and then the player health dot health. What I'm going to do, I want to create a new function that looks after the health separately. I'm going to call that deduct health. Now, why I'm putting it into a function is because we can do a couple of other things here too. Say we're on the we're on the higher end of this kind of development. We're not prototyping anymore, but we actually have characters and animations and things like that. As we take a hit, we can deduct from our health, and we can also say play animation for being hit here. We can play a sound here. They see, instead of just modifying one single variable, I'll call this function, which will actually decrease the health, and it also be ready if you want to do some other things afterwards. So, for example, we could say our health minus equals 10. So every time we call deduct health, the player health variable is reduced by 10. Save that out. I'm going to go back to my 2D scene just because it's a bit more compact and easier to move things around while testing. Okay, so we have our player. We have our NPC there, the NPC movement script. It's a free roaming attacking. Maximum range is 10 there, so he's going to be free roaming unless he gets quite close. I'm going to bring that back up to 45. Okay, so he should start attacking at a reasonable distance. He doesn't have to be real close. Made changes, so I'm going to save the scene. I'm going to make more changes. So I'll grab the player. Let's grab the player health script and drop that on. So we have a variable. Save the scene again. Okay, so we set up our player, and we've created a function on that player to deduct health by a certain amount. Now we need to look at how to call that function from the NPC. As I said, we could go quite complicated and quite technical, and later on you will need to do things like this. We have our target. Somewhere in the start function we could find the script on the target, which would have to be player health, and then we could modify the variable directly, or we could call that function directly. I'm going to introduce you to something so that we don't have to use that at all. Okay, let's have a look at SendMessage. Game object SendMessage. Here we have the example. Calls a method. Method is not named for function. Calls a function named function name on every modern behavior on this game object. Here's the example. So if you cross-reference to the parameters up here, we have the method name as a string, quite the same as invoke. And also we can send a value to it. And then send message options is something that I will be looking at in a moment too. So let's see if we can plug that in. So we have our target as a transform. Let's just cross-reference. component SendMessage. Okay. Now transform is a component. So yes, it is absolutely possible. We can use the transform of our target and then send message to that. So we don't need to transfer it to a game object. So we can say target dot send message. What are we going to be sending? We're going to be calling this deduct health function. Okay, so on the target send message as a string, the method name. Now currently we don't have any values that we're sending to it, and I won't look at the send message options yet. Okay, so when we're attacking, looking at the target, we stopped our movement, and we're going to send that message deduct health. And I'll show you immediately where this isn't going to be great. Let's just hit play and see if he's within range and start attacking. Now watch this health variable here. Okay, so he's close enough, he's come in, he's attacking, he's getting close enough to attack. Now he's close enough to attack, and nothing's happening actually. What have I done wrong? Target send message. Of course, if something goes wrong, we always put a debug in. Okay, let's see if we're actually falling into it here. Okay, so I have no debug. So what's happening here? Okay, so the problem is lying in here somewhere. Okay, we're making some decisions, right? Okay, we're making some decisions. If we're free roaming attacking, let's look at what we're doing. If we're outside the maximum range, we're free roaming. If we're in the minimum range, we're falling to idle. We haven't put attacking in here yet. Okay, so we're not. That's why the debug's not coming up, right? So if we're within the minimum range, we want to go to attacking. And so when we're attacking, we stop, we look at the target, and then we deduct health. Okay. That's a whoops by me. Let's try that again. Now watch the health variable as the NPC comes within attack range. Okay, so he's come in, we're sending a message to the target finally, so we can get rid of that. What's happening with his health? It's going up at a crazy rate. Let's try that again. Okay, so that's dropping way too fast. It's pretty much like a headshot, isn't it? It's like an instant kill. That's working now, we can get rid of that. So let's just examine what's happening here. If we're calling attacking in every update, you can see every single update, every single time.delta time, we are deducting health. We need to restrict this. We need to add some kind of timer into here so that we're only deducting health every half a second or 1 second, however long our attack animation goes for, or whatever frequency attack you want to use. We need to create some variables for that. And add them to the bottom. Okay, and keeping the convention of keeping things tidy in the inspector, the first one's going to be our attack timer. So I'm going to make it private because it's just a counter. This will be a type float, and we'll start it off at 0. Okay, just like our other example of a timer, we need a maximum time to compare it to. We'll make this public because it's something you want to change based on your NPC behavior. So it's a variable. Let's call this attack delay. What's the delay in between attacks? Again, type float, and let's keep things fairly quick. I'm just going to set this to 0.8 of a second. So we have a timer and we have a maximum value to check our timer against. So remember setting up a timer. Let's work with that first. Okay, all this is going to happen before we send the message. So first let's increment our timer. Add to it time dot delta time. So now our timer is incrementing. So we want to check if it's past our maximum time, or our delay time in this case. So if our attack timer has become greater than or equal to our attack delay, and first let's reset the timer. And now we can start applying damage. Okay? So let's just see if that is actually working. So now again, watching the health. I say 0.8 nearly every second. 10. There we go. Now the health is being decreased at a reasonable rate. And that rate is, if we look at the NPC script, that's our attack delay. So every 0.8 seconds, we're taking off what is currently a hard-coded value of 10 away from the player health. Alright, just see that continuing to happen. There we go, he's already fallen down. Okay, so he's taken 10 hits at 0.8 seconds per hit.